Hello, Michael. Hello, Stephen. Lyndon Collard here. I noticed that you're having a bit of a tiff, Mike and Steve. I particularly relate to some of the things that Michael Ignatieff said about the personal attacks. I endure a great number of personal attacks. I'm a musician and composer, and somehow that's anathema to local rednecks and the local authorities. I notice also that Michael is aware of the loss that Canadian citizens experience when they lose their assets and their employment. That happened to me when I was crippled at the age of 24. I had to make my own employment since. There are even unfortunate side effects to making your own employment. If you make your own employment, you own your own business, and you'll find yourself being preyed upon by your very own wife. Despite the fact that Michael Ignatieff has the luxury to say, if you mess with me, I'll mess with you until I'm done, my wife and her lawyer got to mess with me, and there was nothing I could do about it. Furthermore, anytime that someone comes onto my property, whether it's a developer trying to order me around or somebody actually chopping down trees, it'll turn out that they've got connection to the local authority. They know someone in the Capital Regional District, or they know someone in the Sault RCMP, and upon some flimsy premise, next thing you know, there'll be a grinning dog catcher and a SWAT team, or just plain a SWAT team in my driveway, all armed to the teeth with bulletproof vests, out here with me all alone and crippled. And the unfortunate side effect of these intimidating and humiliating intrusions is that I collapse, and sometimes I spend a week in bed. Sometimes I can spend a year in bed after one of those collapses. As I mentioned, I've been crippled since I was 24 years old. We live in some sort of a poof riding where I'm supposed to prostrate myself and allow myself to be sodomized. Regardless of what complaint that I make to the RCMP Complaints Commission, to the Provincial Complaints Commission, to the federal or provincial solicitors or attorneys general, MLA, MP, nothing will suffice. There's no way that I can stop people from messing with me. There's a form of policing which is not cognizant of the public safety and benefit and support of the Commonwealth that a police officer is supposed to adhere to. There's a form of vicious, reactive, punitive, and destructive hampering which these uneducated hicks in the RCMP take to the extent of a vendetta. Writing to police departments in other cities asking them to apprehend me for anything possible. In their files, I've seen the statement made. It says, Collard is an environmentalist seeking confrontation and must be charged. All of these events occurred on my own property. When there's a spurious entry onto my property by a regional district enforcement or RCMP, and I realize what the source of it is, I order them to leave the property and enact the provisions of the Protection of Private Property Act. When they return, they have infracted the Protection of Private Property Act, sections 34, 5, 6, 7, and 8. But the man who now heads up Capital Regional District bylaw enforcement or animal enforcement or something like that is Don Brown, former RCMP sergeant. He was still on pension, collecting over $100,000 a year, on sick leave, collecting over $100,000 a year when he was paid his first year's pay as a Capital Regional District Chief Bylaw Officer. He might still be collecting both pension and the bylaw officer's salary. Furthermore, there's federal legislation which prohibits Don Brown, as a 5 years service RCMP sergeant, from continuing law enforcement in my area. Don Brown says that he and his officers are exempt from the criminal code. Furthermore, Officer Cunningham, once in charge of the Sioux RCMP, says, we'll come to your place. This isn't a letter I got in my files. Anytime we want, and if there are any doors or windows open, we're coming in. Now, I don't know what sort of an atmosphere this is provide for the composition and practice of music, but I assure you that it's not good, and they know it's not good. As a matter of fact, it's their intention to harass me until I sell my property and move away, but that just can't happen. I just couldn't do it. I have gone all the way to the Supreme Court. I wrote the writs against prevarication and defamation, and I attempted to sue one individual in order to bring to bear the precedent that when collusion approaches the level of a criminal conspiracy, write a statement of the claim in the form of an information and then afterwards turn the information over to Crown Counsel. But we have absolutely no response here to corrupt policing and the crony system. And furthermore, when we come before the courts, once again, there's a favor system, I believe, where the judges who are sitting on the bench owe favors to the law firms of other lawyers who, when they were judges, did favors for them, a reciprocal favor agreement. I've been surrounded by sheriffs in the Supreme Court and caused a collapse. There's no process of law, there's no obedience to the law, there's no evidentiary process. Why does Michael Ignatieff have the luxury that he can say to the Prime Minister of Canada, if you mess with me, I'll mess with you until I'm done? And I have absolutely no response right here in Wanda Fuca Malahat, where Keith Martin, member of the Liberal Party, sits. And that's all he does is sit, I believe. I see no evidence whatsoever of constituency work. His employee, Jeff, phoned me and told me that I didn't own my own land. I only owned a thin skim over the top of the property, and that was why the Capital Regional District and the police could roll in anytime they wanted to. But I see criminal code prohibitions against bylaw officers arming themselves. I see criminal code prohibitions and sanctions of 14 to 25 years in jail for bringing the police to a property where you've been told to leave because you're trespassing. Why, Michael, and Steve, I'm going to be talking to you shortly too, why do I have no response whatsoever? And if some member of a political party, maybe even not a member, just an employee, places an ad that you don't like, you can turn around and you can say to the Prime Minister, if you mess with me, I'll mess with you until I'm done. And if I said that to a police officer, or a trespassing Capital Regional District officer, or even a trespassing neighbor, there'd be SWAT teams in my driveway. What's wrong out here? Why is my member of Parliament so compromised? I think I know why. And why do you